Before the universe was born, where were you? What if the origin of humanity isn't out there, but inside your own mind? Have you ever looked up at the night sky and wondered, where did we really come from? Not as a species on paper, but as beings, breathing, thinking, feeling. Every civilization has tried to answer this question. Science speaks of evolution and the Big Bang. Religion tells stories of divine creation. But Buddhism takes a completely different path. Instead of asking who made us, the Buddha asked, why do we keep suffering? And how can we be free? It's not that Buddhism ignores the origin of life. It simply redirects the question. Because if searching for the beginning doesn't free us from pain, then what's the point of knowing? In the Vacchagotta Sutta, there's a simple but striking image. The Buddha spoke of a man struck by a poisoned arrow. Instead of pulling it out, he keeps asking, who shot it? From which direction? What kind of wood is the shaft made of? He dies before finding the answer. That is how most of us live, wounded by confusion, asking questions that only feed our curiosity, not our healing. The Buddhist view on human origins isn't a story of creation. It's a mirror to our own consciousness. We are not random accidents nor divine puppets. We are continuations of causes and conditions, a stream of mind constantly transforming. Every thought, every action, every intention plants a seed in this infinite cycle of becoming. Think of a wave on the ocean. It rises, falls, and becomes another wave. Never truly born, never truly gone. That's us. We are not separate from life. We are life, appearing in countless forms. The origin is not a moment in time. It's happening right now in the unfolding of every breath, every heartbeat, every act of awareness. This teaching invites us to shift from where do humans come from to how can I live with understanding and compassion now? Because in understanding the nature of our mind, we begin to understand the nature of existence itself. And perhaps that's the real beginning. Not somewhere in the distant past, but in the instant we wake up to what is. If this reflection touches something within you, share your thoughts below. What do you believe the true origin of human life is? Let's explore it together. In the next part, we'll go deeper into how consciousness and karma weave the fabric of our very being. We live beneath an infinite sky, yet still we ask, where does it all begin? To understand that question, we step into the first part of today's journey, the boundless universe in Buddhist vision. 1. Beginningless time, the endless flow. In the Animataga Sutta, the Buddha declared, no discoverable beginning can be found of beings roaming on, bound by ignorance and craving. Time in Buddhist cosmology is not a line with a first spark. It is a wheel without spokes, a river that has no source, only flow. The Buddha once used a haunting image. Imagine a massive mountain of solid rock. Once every 100 years, a silk cloth brushes across its surface. When the mountain is finally worn away, that long span is still shorter than the endless cycle of existence. This is not a lesson in despair. It's a call to humility. Our lives, with their triumphs and tragedies, are but single breaths within an eternal rhythm. When we see this, the urgency shifts, from chasing when it began to awakening how we are living now. 2. The cycles of creation and dissolution. In the Aganya Sutta, the Buddha described how the universe itself expands and contracts, a cosmic breathing. When the world dissolves, beings of light ascend to the radiant realms, known as Abhasara Brahma. When the world reforms, they descend again into material existence, shaped by their past intentions, reborn in the new cycle. No deity commands this process. It unfolds naturally, the rhythm of karma and energy, of cause and effect. Even stars, galaxies, and worlds obey this ancient pulse, arising, flourishing, fading, and returning to stillness. Modern physics speaks of the universe expanding and collapsing, the same truth seen through another lens. In this, Buddhism does not seek to replace science, it seeks to complete it, reminding us that outer cosmos and inner mind reflect each other. As the universe expands, so too does our craving. As it contracts, we return to simplicity. The outer mirrors the inner, eternally. 3. Infinite worlds. The cosmic web. The Brahmajala Sutta reveals that countless world systems exist, not one universe but innumerable universes, each rising and dissolving like bubbles in the vast ocean of reality. Each follows its own rhythm of birth and decay, all interconnected by the web of dependent origination. This vision of multiple world systems feels astonishingly close to the multiverse theory in modern cosmology, but beyond the scientific resemblance lies a deeper spiritual message: impermanence. Everything, stars, worlds, and even the self you think you are, is part of a vast interdependent dance. Nothing exists alone. When we grasp this truth, not intellectually, but with the heart, something within us softens. The ego, once obsessed with permanence and control, begins to dissolve. You realize you're not a lonely point floating in space. You're the space itself, the awareness witnessing all universes come and go. So when Buddhism speaks of the universe, it's not describing the heavens above, it's describing you, your mind, your breath, your cycles of birth and loss, hope and surrender. These are reflections of the same cosmic rhythm. To see that clearly is to live with reverence, because the same mystery that moves galaxies is breathing you right now. Sometimes the universe feels like an endless ocean, vast, cyclical, and alive with mysterious motion. We've just glimpsed how Buddhism views that cosmic ocean, without a beginning, without a final edge. But now let's dive deeper into how life itself began to take shape within that boundless flow. Today we move to the next part of our journey, the awakening of human form, from light beings to flesh. According to the Aganya Sutta, the earliest beings were not made of flesh and bone. They were luminous, radiant forms of pure consciousness, drifting in a world of gentle brilliance. They didn't eat or breathe as we do. They were sustained by joy itself, the bliss of the mind in harmony. This is a poetic image, yet profoundly psychological. It tells us that before our attachment to material existence, there was awareness, pure and unbounded. In that primordial world, there was no sun, no moon, no solid earth. The Buddha called it a dark liquid mass, a symbol of the unformed state of both the cosmos and the mind. Everything existed in potential, awaiting the touch of curiosity. And then curiosity came, when a subtle essence, the flavor of the earth, rose to the surface. Some of those radiant beings, out of wonder, tasted it. That simple act, tasting the world, became the first act of attachment. And from that moment, the story of human evolution began. As desire awakened, light began to fade. The luminous forms grew dense, heavy, and opaque. The more they tasted, the more they longed. Their bodies became coarse, and distinctions appeared: beauty and ugliness, strength and weakness. Soon, with the arising of desire, came comparison, and with comparison came division. The once unified beings began to see themselves as separate. Then gender appeared, not as a punishment, but as a natural reflection of polarity, the duality born from attraction and attachment. This marks the beginning of sexual reproduction, a symbol in Buddhist cosmology for how craving perpetuates existence. And the world responded. As the beings' desires grew, the environment around them changed. The earth hardened, vegetation arose, and food, once abundant and effortless, required effort to obtain. The essence of the earth gave way to grains, fruits, and later, scarcity. It's a powerful mirror for our inner world. The more we cling, the more the world becomes solid, demanding effort, competition, ownership. Early humans began to gather and store food, and from that act of possession emerged greed, deceit, and social tension. Communities formed, not only for survival but for protection from each other. In this Buddhist vision, the evolution of humankind is not a biological tale, but a spiritual parable, a journey from unity to division, from light to shadow, from pure awareness to embodied craving. And yet, within that descent lies the seed of awakening, because only through the experience of limitation can awareness remember its boundless nature. We are, in a sense, still tasting that flavor of the earth, still curious, still desiring, still learning through attachment. But understanding this story reminds us that behind our physical form, there remains a luminous essence untouched by time, waiting to be rediscovered. The story of humanity doesn't end with the loss of light. It begins there. From the first act of desire came separation, and from separation came community. As consciousness descended into form, beings who once lived in radiant solitude now had to learn to coexist, to build, to share, and to survive together. And so, we move to the next part of our journey, the birth of human society, from survival to consciousness. When the environment grew harsher and resources began to dwindle, humans instinctively gathered into groups. What once was a world of luminous individuals became the cradle of the first communities. They shared food, built shelters, and defended one another. Out of this shared vulnerability, empathy began to take root. Language was born, not from philosophy, but from necessity. The need to communicate, to coordinate, to care. A simple sound could warn of danger, express gratitude, or comfort a friend. And in that exchange of sound and meaning, humanity's most powerful tool emerged: connection, the bridge between one mind and another. But as the earth hardened and food became scarce, the seeds of conflict were sown. Possession arose. This is mine, that is yours. And with it came comparison, greed, and envy. What was once abundance turned into division. This too the Buddha described in the Aganya Sutta. As the earth's essence vanished, humans began to quarrel over land, over crops, over survival. To restore order, they gathered and chose one among them, a person of wisdom and fairness, to mediate disputes and maintain peace. He was called Mahasamata, the one chosen by the people. And thus society was born, not from divine decree, but from mutual agreement, from the shared longing for stability and justice. It was the dawn of law, governance, and morality. Yet with the rise of civilization came new tests. The more humanity built, the more it risked forgetting its origins, its luminous essence, its inner simplicity. Material progress brought comfort, but also craving. Power created security, but also corruption. And so the Buddha's teaching reemerged. This is a reminder: true advancement lies not in wealth or rank, but in wisdom and liberation. As society evolved, so did the human heart. The same beings who once quarreled over grain began to realize that greed breeds suffering, that anger burns from within, and that ignorance darkens the mind. Slowly, moral evolution began. Generosity, dana, became the antidote to possession. Compassion, karuna, replaced judgment. And mindfulness, sati, became the path to clarity in the midst of chaos. Buddhism reminds us that society's greatest achievement isn't its technology or politics. It's the awakening of conscience. A civilization rises not when it builds taller walls, but when it cultivates deeper understanding. From the first light beings to modern humankind, the journey has always been about remembering the essence within us that no wealth can buy and no war can destroy. Each act of kindness, each mindful breath, each moment of clarity is a return to that forgotten light. We live together now in vast cities, surrounded by noise, screens, and endless movement. But deep beneath that complexity, the same ancient longing remains: to belong, to understand, to awaken. And that longing, more than anything else, is what makes us human. Humanity has always sought to bridge two great frontiers: science and spirituality. One asks how things happen, the other asks why. When these two meet, a deeper truth begins to unfold. And so we move to the next part of our journey, where science meets Dharma, the parallel paths of understanding. In modern cosmology, scientists describe the birth and death of the universe through the Big Bang and Big Crunch, an eternal cycle of expansion and collapse. Yet thousands of years before telescopes and equations, Buddhist texts like the Aganya Sutta and Brahmajala Sutta had already spoken of a similar rhythm. Worlds arising and dissolving endlessly, guided not by a divine hand, but by natural law. It's remarkable how these ancient teachings echo through the language of modern physics. The Buddha never sought to compete with science. Rather, he explored what science cannot measure: the experience of reality. While cosmology looks outward to the stars, Buddhism turns inward to the mind. Both are seeking the same thing, understanding the origin of existence. In the Buddhist view, the universe isn't a single, static creation. It's a living system of countless world cycles, lokadhatu, emerging, evolving, and vanishing like waves upon an infinite ocean. This vision aligns strikingly with the modern idea of a multiverse, where innumerable universes coexist, each with its own birth and decay. But Buddhism adds a dimension that science cannot yet quantify: karma and consciousness. While science traces the evolution of physical forms, Buddhism explores the evolution of awareness itself. The Aganya Sutta tells of beings of radiant light who slowly became denser and more material as desire grew within them, a poetic reflection of humanity's own descent from pure awareness into form. Where Darwin speaks of biological evolution, Buddhism speaks of mental evolution. Every change in form mirrors a change in consciousness. Desire thickens the veil, compassion thins it. The more we awaken, the lighter we become, not in body, but in being. Science tells us that matter gives rise to consciousness. Buddhism offers another possibility, that consciousness gives rise to matter. The mind isn't just a byproduct of the brain, it's an active participant in creation itself. Every thought, every intention, every ripple in awareness shapes the world we experience. This is where the two paths converge, not in conflict, but in complement. Science explains the mechanism. Buddhism reveals the meaning. Science studies the outer universe. Buddhism studies the inner one. And both point to a profound truth, that everything, from galaxies to thoughts, is interconnected, impermanent, and constantly transforming. Perhaps the ultimate evolution is not biological or technological, but spiritual. When the human mind recognizes itself as part of the cosmic fabric it's been studying all along. In this meeting between the microscope and meditation, between the particle and the prayer, humanity may finally glimpse what the Buddha saw beneath the Bodhi tree, the unity of all things, seen and unseen, matter and mind, form and emptiness. As science and Buddhist wisdom intertwine to reveal the vastness of the universe, we are naturally led to a deeper question: what is the true purpose of our existence within this cosmic flow? And so, we will now move to the next part of today's journey, the sacred meaning of human existence. 1. The rarity of human life. In the Chigala Sutta, the Buddha compares the chance of being born as a human to a blind turtle surfacing once every 100 years and placing its head through a small wooden ring floating on the ocean. This vivid image reminds us, human existence is not a coincidence, but a rare convergence of causes and conditions, a precious opportunity granted by countless lifetimes of effort. Unlike beings in higher realms of bliss, or those trapped in cycles of great suffering, humans dwell in the middle ground, capable of reflection, compassion, and transformation. This delicate balance of joy and pain is what makes human life the ideal ground for awakening. 2. The true purpose of understanding origins. The Buddha never taught about the universe's beginning merely to satisfy intellectual curiosity. He offered such insight so that we might understand suffering and transcend it. Knowing the origin of human life is not about looking backward into cosmic history. It is about looking inward into the nature of mind. When we understand that existence arises from conditions, not from a single creator, we begin to see the truth of impermanence, anicca, and non-self, anatta. From that wisdom blooms compassion, karuna, because we realize that all beings share the same fragile impermanence, the same longing to be free from suffering. 3. The link between origins and destiny. In Buddhist thought, karma is not a fixed fate, but a flowing current shaped by thought, speech, and action. Every choice plants a seed in the vast field of consciousness. Some sprout immediately, others in lifetimes to come. Thus, while our origins may be written by past karma, our destiny is rewritten each moment through mindfulness and intention. As the Dhammapada says, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. Habershamoy, to know this truth is to reclaim freedom. The freedom to choose kindness over greed, awareness over ignorance, and wisdom over fear. 4. Living with insight and gratitude. Understanding the interconnectedness of all things transforms the way we live. We begin to see that no moment is ordinary, that each breath is borrowed from the universe itself. Gratitude arises naturally, not as a moral duty, but as a deep awareness of inner being. To live mindfully is to live beautifully, to turn every act, no matter how small, into an offering of awareness and love. Though human life is brief, when guided by compassion and insight, it becomes vast, a doorway to liberation and inner peace. We come from the universe, we return to it, but what truly matters is how we live in between. To awaken to our sacred existence is to walk gently, love deeply, and live with purpose, here and now. After understanding the sacred meaning of human existence, one question still echoes in the heart. If everything is connected, then what is the role of our mind in shaping reality itself? To explore this profound mystery, we will now move to the next part, the interconnection of mind, karma, and the cosmos. 1. Consciousness as the creative force. In Buddhist cosmology, consciousness, vijnana, is not a byproduct of matter. It is the originating pulse of existence. Before form arises, there is awareness. Before galaxies swirl into being, there is the potential of mind. The Buddha described this not as a mystical claim, but as a direct insight. Mind is both mirror and maker. Every thought ripples through the fabric of existence. Like a seed carried by the wind, our intentions take root in unseen realms and blossom into experiences, individual and cosmic alike. Thus, consciousness is not confined within the skull. It breathes with the stars and dances with the rhythm of creation. 2. The cosmic law of interdependence. Every phenomenon, from the birth of a star to the rise of a thought, follows the same law the Buddha revealed, Paticca Samuppada, the law of dependent origination. Because this exists, that arises. Nothing stands alone. The light of a sun depends on fusion within its core. The smile of a human depends on countless unseen kindnesses that came before. When one thread moves, the entire web trembles. This law is not merely metaphysical, it is experiential. When we cultivate peace in the mind, peace radiates outward. When we sow greed or anger, the world reflects it back. 3. Karma, the moral energy of the universe. Karma is often misunderstood as punishment or fate, but in truth, it is the moral energy that shapes the universe's evolution. It is the physics of the soul, the balance of cause and effect woven into both matter and mind. Our actions, physical, verbal, and mental, emit subtle vibrations that ripple through the cosmos. Just as gravity shapes the orbits of planets, karma shapes the trajectories of lives. A compassionate thought may seem small, yet it shifts the unseen currents of the world toward harmony. When collective consciousness tilts toward greed or hatred, the universe mirrors that turbulence through chaos, conflict, and imbalance. When minds incline toward wisdom and compassion, the same energy nurtures peace and renewal. 4. The infinite reflection between mind and cosmos. The relationship between consciousness and the universe is not linear, but cyclical, a mirror reflecting a mirror. Every thought influences the world, and every event in the world influences thought. Imagine tossing a pebble into a still pond. The ripples move outward, touch the shore, and then return. Likewise, every intention we release, loving or harmful, travels across the vast pond of existence and eventually returns to its source. This is why the Buddha taught mindfulness, sati, to recognize the instant where karma begins, the moment between a thought's birth and its expression. In that space lies freedom, the power to transform both self and universe. 5. Awakening through understanding. To realize the interconnection of mind, karma, and cosmos is to awaken to the grand tapestry of existence. It calls us to live responsibly, knowing that every word, every emotion, every breath contributes to the balance of the whole. When one heart becomes compassionate, the world subtly shifts. When many hearts awaken, the entire cosmos vibrates in harmony. The Buddha's teaching is not about escaping the world, but transforming it from within. Through awareness, ethical action, and love, we participate consciously in the cosmic dance, co-creators of a universe guided by wisdom, not ignorance. As we have explored how mind, karma, and the cosmos are intertwined in an infinite dance, a final realization emerges. If everything is connected, then understanding where we come from is not about looking backward into time, but awakening here and now. And so we move to our final reflection, awakening through understanding origins. One, looking inward. Instead of backward, the Buddha never urged us to seek the first cause of the universe. Instead, he invited us to look within, to observe the arising and passing of thoughts, sensations, and emotions within our own being. Because the truth of existence is not buried in cosmic history, but alive in this very breath. Every moment of awareness reveals the same truth that governs the stars: birth, change, decay, and renewal. By understanding this cycle within ourselves, we no longer chase an ultimate beginning, for we see that beginning and ending are one continuous flow. 2. Freedom from the endless question. The Buddha compared the obsession with "where did it all begin?" to a man struck by a poisoned arrow who refuses treatment until he knows who shot it, from where, and why. While he questions, he suffers. While he speculates, the poison spreads. Likewise, our need to define the first beginning traps us in the same poison, that of ignorance and endless reasoning. But when we understand that life is a web of interdependent causes, no single start, no final point, we are freed from the burden of metaphysical confusion. We stop arguing about truth and start living it. 3. Transforming knowledge into wisdom. Understanding origins is not for satisfying curiosity, but for healing the roots of suffering. The Buddha's teaching was always practical. To see clearly is to transform fear, craving, and delusion, the true sources of human pain. When we realize that nothing arises independently, the illusion of I begins to fade. Like clouds dissolving under sunlight, our sense of separation melts into compassion. Knowledge, then, becomes wisdom, not a collection of facts, but a way of seeing that heals. 4. The liberation of letting go. Seeing that everything is born from conditions, we loosen our grip on mine, yours, and this and that. The world softens. The heart becomes spacious. From that space, kindness arises naturally, not as an effort, but as the fragrance of understanding. We realize that life is not something we possess. It is something we participate in. Each moment becomes sacred because it is impermanent. Letting go of control, we begin to truly live. 5. Awakening in the present moment. Understanding the origin of existence leads not to theories but to presence. The miracle is not that life began, but that it is happening now. Each breath, each act of awareness is a return to the source, the same timeless pulse that flows through galaxies and through your own heart. When you see this clearly, there is no fear of death, no craving for permanence, only the silent joy of being awake. That is the true meaning of understanding origins. Not to exist forever, but to awaken in this fleeting moment, and in that awakening, to find peace that never fades. In the end, the journey of understanding human origins in Buddhism is not about tracing our lineage to a beginning, but awakening to the timeless truth that everything is connected: mind, karma, and the vast unfolding of the cosmos. The Buddha never sought to answer who created us, because such a question still separates the seeker from the truth. Instead, he invited us to see directly how every moment of thought, word, and action creates worlds, within and without. We are not passive travelers drifting through the universe. We are the silent architects of reality itself. Each intention shapes the invisible web of causes and effects. Each emotion ripples through the fabric of existence. When we understand this, life ceases to be a random sequence of events. It becomes a sacred dialogue between consciousness and the cosmos. The stars above, the breath within, the beating of your heart, they are not separate. They are the same pulse of life vibrating through infinity. To awaken is not to escape the world, but to see it clearly, to live with awareness so pure that even the simplest act, a breath, a smile, a kind word, becomes a doorway to enlightenment. This understanding brings both awe and responsibility. If our mind can shape the world, then compassion is not just a virtue. It is a creative force. Mindfulness is not a retreat. It is participation in the grand design of life. Every act of awareness adds light to the collective consciousness of all beings. So when you look up at the night sky, know that you are part of that mystery. Not a fragment lost in space, but the space itself, conscious of its own beauty. When you suffer, remember, even pain is a wave returning to the ocean of awareness, reminding you of what truly matters: to live, to love, to awaken. The purpose of understanding our origin is not to hold more knowledge, but to let go of illusions, fears, and the restless need to control. For in letting go, we return to the silent center of being, where there is no beginning and no end, only presence, radiant and eternal. Perhaps the real question is not, where did we come from, but how deeply can we awaken now? If this message touched something within you, a spark of stillness, a whisper of remembrance, share it below. Tell us what you see when you look within: a question, a realization, or even a quiet breath of gratitude. And as we continue this journey together, I invite you to join me in the next video, where we'll explore not just the origins of life, but the art of awakening in everyday moments. Let's promise to walk this path, not as seekers chasing answers, but as beings returning home again and again to the infinite space of awareness.